Across the anthropological record, human history shares a distinct, recurring narrative, an early civilization entirely swallowed by the sea in a cataclysmic deluge. These accounts emerged independently, passed down by cultures separated by massive oceans and vast continents. The Innu people of eastern Canada preserved an oral history of a great deluge destroying early humanity. Thousands of miles away on the American Great Plains, the Pawnee maintained their own distinct tradition of a flood sent to judge the land's inhabitants. Across the Atlantic, the Maasai of East Africa recorded a nearly identical narrative of survival against rising waters. Anthropologists typically categorize these stories as abstract, folkloric traditions, but the Near Eastern versions of the deluge require a different framework. The Mesopotamian account strips away the abstraction. It anchors the survival vessel to precise, measurable geographic coordinates. When we move from mythological analysis to physical cartography, we must evaluate these ancient clay texts not as folklore, but as raw data. Ancient texts place the first post-flood civilizations in Mesopotamia, the region we now know as Iraq. This was a harsh, unforgiving environment, where early societies built their entire world out of mud brick architecture that still scars the desert landscape today. To understand how they mapped that world, we have to examine a specific artifact recovered from this dirt and now housed in London. Deep in the archives of the British Museum sits a small clay tablet. This is the Imago Mundi, or the Babylonian Map of the world, dating to the 6th century BCE. By translating the cuneiform carved into this clay map, we can trace the exact geographic vectors linking the Babylonian flood survivor Utnapishtim directly to the Genesis account and modern geological anomalies. The front of the tablet presents a top-down view of a circular landmass. The known world is heavily centered on the inscribed rectangular block representing the city of Babylon. Bisecting this continent from north to south are two parallel lines depicting the Euphrates River. This proves the Babylonian cartographers were indexing tangible geography, mapping the physical waterways they relied on for survival. Encircling their known landmass is a massive body of water they called the Bitter River. These stylized triangles represent specific mountainous regions located beyond the horizon of the central continent. The map presents these peaks as physical landmarks, requiring active navigation to reach across the enclosing water. The rigorous study of this tablet was led by Assyriologist Dr. Irving Finkel. He spent years analyzing the precise geometry and text of the artifact. For decades, scholars faced a historical roadblock. The cuneiform text on the reverse side of the tablet was missing a critical fragment, rendering its instructions incomplete. The breakthrough occurred when researchers, sorting through thousands of uncatalogued shards, identified a tiny missing piece that fit the back of the map perfectly. With the complete text restored, Finkel translated the back. It is meant to be read counterclockwise, functioning as a direct travel itinerary. The instructions are exact. A traveler must cross the Bitter River for a distance of 7 leagues to arrive at one specific mountain. This translation reveals the tablet's functional utility as a navigation log, converting the physical symbols on the front into a sequential itinerary. The text promises that at the end of this journey, the traveler will find the massive wooden ribs of an ancient structure. To describe the size of these timbers, the cuneiform uses a highly specific word, parsiktu. A parsiktu is an exact Babylonian unit of measurement. It was used exclusively to describe the thick structural components of massive coracle-style vessels. This is a statistical anomaly. The term is exceptionally rare and appears in only one other major piece of Mesopotamian literature. That text is the Ark Tablet, part of the Gilgamesh epic tradition, which details how a man named Utnapishtim built a giant vessel to survive the deluge. By combining these geographic vectors with the specific structural terminology, we see the Babylonians were mapping the precise location of the Great Flood's debris field. If we map the Babylonian vectors onto modern topography and trace the path north from Mesopotamia, the line terminates in the mountains of eastern Turkey. Historically, this specific destination zone was known as the ancient mountain kingdom of Urartu. This brings us directly to the biblical text. Genesis 8:4 details the exact location where Noah's Ark came to rest after the waters receded. There is a direct linguistic bridge here. The Hebrew word Ararat is the direct transliteration of the Akkadian Urartu. Mount Ararat still dominates the physical landscape of eastern Turkey today. Despite their differing theologies, both the 6th century BCE Babylonian cartographers and the Hebrew scribes were targeting the exact same topographical coordinates. Moving into modern scientific observation, we find that distinct geographic anomalies exist in this exact Urartu coordinate zone today. Less than 20 miles from Mount Ararat sits the Durapinar Formation, a prominent boat-shaped footprint embedded in the terrain. Genesis 6:15 provides specific structural metrics for the vessel: a length of 300 cubits, a width of 50, and a height of 30. This schematic compares the biblical dimensions to the physical site. The length of the geological outline matches that 300 cubic metric precisely. Geologists maintain that the site is a naturally occurring limonite fold, while independent researchers argue it contains structural remnants. Regardless of its geological or man-made origin, its dimensional alignment with the ancient texts makes it the physical culmination of the Babylonian Map's instructions. What begins as diffuse global folklore, separated by oceans and continents, is refined into highly specific data points in the Near East. The Imago Mundi bridges textual memory with geography. It cements the narrative of Utnapishtim into the soil, laying the topographical groundwork for the Genesis account. By subjecting these mythos to rigorous geographic mapping, we uncover a unified, continuous 3,000-year-old topographical tradition hidden in plain sight.